everyone, and welcome back to the Stitch Sessions. And if you are new here, welcome. It's so good to have you. My name is Karen, and I love all things to do with crochet and crafting with crochet. So this week's project is this really fun and cute little summer wristlet. So it's perfect to just kind of have around the wrist. You can carry it in your hand or just kind of carry it with you on your wrists. Nice and lightweight, perfect for carrying your phone and maybe a credit card or two, and you're off to the races. This was a fun and really quick project to make. We used the linked single crochet stitch here. Now this project, we worked in the round. We've used the linked single crochet in other projects like the beach tote from last year, as well as the linked single crochet dishcloth, and I'll leave a link for those in the description box down below if you're curious to check those out. And both of those projects were done in a flat manner. That meant we kept turning our work. So our flap up here, you can see that it's got one kind of texture. So you can see the stitches are linked. And then here we've got a slightly different texture because we worked in the round. So we started from the bottom spine here of our wristlet, and then we continued to work in the round. And then lastly, we created the flap, sewed on a button, threw on our wristlet, and we are good to go for some summer fun. Let's now check out the materials you're gonna need to create our project. All right, so I'm gonna start off with the yarn we're gonna use, which is Bernat's Home Deck yarn. Now, I love working with this yarn for things like bags and baskets, and I'm not quite sure, but I believe Bernat sadly has discontinued this yarn, but I do notice you can still find it on Amazon, and unfortunately, a lot of times they really have overpriced this. I think somebody scooped it up, or they're manufacturing it maybe just for Amazon. But if you're looking for this yarn, it can be kind of pricey. I think sometimes I've seen them, I think the cheapest I've seen is like $20 Canadian for a skein, and I've seen up to $50. So if you're looking for something comparable, I would say any t-shirt yarn. I wouldn't use t-shirt yarn myself, but the reason why I love this particular yarn is it's a mix of cotton and nylon. So if you can find something that's comparable to that, I think you'll get the same outcome. Of course, you can always just use 100% cotton, but there's something about this Home Deck yarn I just love. So this is some that I had left over from our lemon square pillow project. And I'm going to be combining it actually today with some leftover of the Handicrafter cotton yarn, also by Bernat. And this is the Candy Sprinkles. It's one of my favorites, and you probably just saw me use this in the rope rug tutorial. So we're going to do this with 2 strands held together. So the yellow is going to combine with the sprinkle yarn. I think it's just going to make a great combination. These come in 42.5 gram skeins. They're small skeins. It should be plenty for this project. If you're going to use just this yarn and you're going to use 2 strands together, I would just recommend buying 2 skeins. The Bernat Home Deck yarn comes in 300 gram skeins, I believe. Let me just see. Sorry, 250 grams. And they have approximately 317 yards or 290 meters. You're more than welcome to go check it out on yarnspirations.com, but I have not seen it there. Like I said, I think a company or someone has scooped up the leftovers, and you can still find it there. So I will not be using the whole skein, just a little bit of it. So that's what we have for yarn. You want to have a wristlet. Now, I happen to have this lying around from a purse that I had, but I don't actually use it on the purse. And I thought this color combination worked out well. Now, if you wanted to just grab one, you could probably find these on Amazon if you wanted to buy them separately. Or you can actually just crochet the wristlet part. But for me, I just had this, this piece lying around, so I'm going to use it. You're going to want a button. And again, coincidentally, I have this button that matches really nicely with the wristlet. And but you can use a button of any size that you like. And the hook size I'm going to be using is a 6mm hook, which is also known as a J or a size 10. As always, make sure you have a pair of scissors and a yarn needle to sew in any ends. Now, you will also need a thread and thread needle in order to be able to sew in your button at the end. So once you've gathered all of your materials, you are ready to begin your wristlet. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I get my 2 working yarns and I hold them together as I go. So I just pulled out a little extra here. And I am treating this as 1 strand of yarn. So we're going to begin by placing a slip knot on our hook here. And now we're going to chain up 26. Once you've chained up 26 chains, you have something that looks like this. You want to be careful not to chain too tightly, okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to find the second chain from your hook. We never count the loop that's on the hook. So we're going to count 1 and 2, and into that chain, we're going to place a single crochet. So pretty easy, very basic, familiar stitches. And then into the next stitch, a single crochet. And that is what you're going to do all the way to the end of your chain here. So go ahead and do that, and I will meet up with you once you've come to the end of your chain. Okay, once you've come to the end of your chain, you're going to have something that looks like this, and you should now have a total of 25 stitches. Okay, I just love how that yellow brings out the blue and the pink. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to go back into that last stitch. We're going to place 2 more single crochet stitches. So we're going to place 1, and I'm going to work over that tail. And I'm going to go back in there and place a second one. So technically I've placed 3 single crochets into that stitch, or into that chain, I should say. And so you can see by doing that, I've created a little bit of a curve and I'm coming around the bend here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to continue placing 1 single crochet into the bottom of the chain that we started. So now we're going to come back down on the bottom edge there until we get back to the first stitch. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Try and work over your tail if you can, or you can weave it in at the end if you like. So our next stitch is there, or our next chain, which is going to be a little tighter now. Insert and single crochet. Okay, so basically you're going to do another 25 stitches down the other side. Okay, so we had 25 single crochets here. Whoops. Then we did 2 more, which means 1 is the short side, and then the second one is actually the beginning of this row going along the bottom. So once you finish it in total and you add 1 more stitch at the end, you will have 52 stitches all the way around. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue doing my single crochets until I get to the end here. I'm going to meet up with you here for those of you that are a little newer, just to guide you through how to go around that bend there and slip stitch to join. So in the meantime, continue placing 1 single crochet into each stitch. Okay, so I have 2 more stitches left, and sometimes it's hard to see where that last stitch is. So if you're ever uncertain, you're going to count backwards. So I counted all the way back to the beginning here, and I know I have 23 stitches. Because remember, this stitch here is the curve. Then that begins the first row on top. Okay, so I've got 2 more stitches to go, so I can see the next one is right there. So that's my 24th stitch on this side. And then I've got one more. So this loop here is that turning chain we did at the very beginning. So you can see that we placed our first single crochet into that chain right there. It's nice and tight, mind you. So we're going to place our 25th single crochet there. And then remember, we always have one extra stitch on each end. So we have to place another single crochet. And see how that helps us come right around the bend. And then what you're going to do is into that very first chain or the turning chain there, you're going to insert your hook and we are going to slip stitch to join our round. Just like that. So round one is complete and it kind of has this little skinny oval look. And as I said before, you will have a total of 52 stitches in total. 25 and 25 and 1 on each end. So let's now move on to round number 2. Okay, so for round number 2, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to go right back into that stitch we slip stitched into and we're going to place a single crochet, but you want to make sure it's not too tight. Just kind of pull it up a little bit and pull through. So that's our first stitch. And if you find it useful, you may want to place a stitch marker on that first stitch to help you gauge where to slip stitch the end of each round. Especially when we have that chain one and we're going over, it can get a little tricky to see. So actually I'm going to do that right now so that I don't lose where I am. Okay, so I've got my little marker here. So I'm just going to place it in that very first stitch so I know where stitch number 1 of this row is. Just like that. Okay, so now we are going to move on to using our linked single crochet stitch. And that's why we wanted to be a little looser for this first one. So what we're going to do is before you actually go into the next stitch to insert, you want to insert your hook into the left leg of your single crochet stitch. So when you create a single crochet, you've got 2 legs here. You've got this one on the left and you've got this one on the right. That looks like that little V there. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert our hook into the left leg. So you insert there first, then you're going to find the next stitch, which is right here. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to use the back loops only. So we're not going to go under there. We're actually going to go in through the top there and insert our hook. And now we're going to pull that loop through. So it looks like you have 3 loops on the hook, but remember this one right here belongs to the previous single crochet. That's that left leg we went through. So now we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. And so you can see it starts to pull over to the side. That's what links these 2 stitches together. Now I realize with the cotton sprinkle yarn, the blue color, it's making it a little bit tricky to see. It's also the first stitch. So I'm going to do a few of these. So now you've got kind of like 3 loops pulling over. So you always want to find the furthest to the left, that loop there, which is also known as the left leg. Let me see, I'm gonna have to help it along. These first few stitches are always a little bit tighter than I'd like to see. So just loosening that up there and then inserting my hook, just like that. And now I go into the next stitch, into the back loop only. So I go in through the back, pull up a loop, and then I'm gonna yarn through all 3. Like that. So you can see a little bit of a slant over. So again, the furthest left leg right there, I'm going to insert first. Then I'm going to find the next stitch and into the back loop, I'm going to insert, pull up a loop like that, yarn over, pull through all 3. Just like that. Okay, so you can see it's starting to form a little ridge here, which is what we want for the bottom of our wristlet. So you're just going to continue doing that linked single crochet stitch all the way around. Okay, so you're getting that really nice effect there. And so you're going to do that all the way around. You're going to continue around the bend here. Your work's going to start to curl. That's okay. You continue all the way back until you come back to that very first stitch, okay? And then I'll meet you here and we'll talk about going on to round number 3. So we are finishing off round number 2 currently. Okay, so I have come all the way around, and this part sometimes gets a little confusing. So I went back and counted all my stitches. So I currently have 51 stitches, including this one here, right? So that's stitch number 1. So we know that we need to place one more stitch. So into the very next stitch here, which is a loop right there, we just want to place our next linked single crochet. So I'm going to go into that left leg there. Now go into the back loop. And this is why counting is really important. If you're ever uncertain, you just count. Just go back and count. So I'm going to yarn over, and this is my last linked single crochet, and I've come up to my stitch marker. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that out, and I'm going to slip stitch to join my round there. Just like that. See how it creates a need for it to curl up? That's exactly what we want to have happen. So we have something kind of looks like a little boat, and that is the bottom of our wristlet. So you can see the ridge that's formed there, okay? Now we're going to continue on with using our linked single crochet. You can see the effect there now. But we are going to now work into the full stitch. We're no longer going to work into the back loops only. And if you recall, at the beginning of row or round 2, we chained 1 and we went right back into the same stitch we slip stitched into. For row 3 and every odd row, we are going to chain 1 and we're going to go into the next stitch. So you're going to alternate. When you go back to round number 4, when you chain 1, you will chain 1 and single crochet into the same stitch. So you're going to repeat what you did in round 2. So all the even numbered rows, you're going to chain 1 and single crochet right back into the stitch that you slip stitched into. All of the odd number rounds, you're going to chain 1, just like I'm doing here, but you're going to skip that stitch that you slip stitched and go into the very next stitch to create your single crochet. And that helps to keep our seam in the same spot. So if you're alternating where you're beginning your first single crochet, that usually tends to keep the seam steady in one spot. So this means at the end of round number 3, where we chained 1, that chain 1 will not count as a stitch. You will just go into that stitch, place your last single crochet, linked single crochet I should say, and then you are going to slip stitch to this stitch right here, and that's where I'm going to replace my stitch marker. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So you always chain 1 and you place your first single crochet into that stitch, and then you continue on doing your linked single crochet just like that. Oops. And this time we're just going to continue working into the full stitch there. So see, that's the back loop. We're going to go into the full stitch. Just like that. Okay. So from now on, all of your rounds should equal 52 stitches. So you're going to repeat round 2 and 3 until you have a total of 6 rounds. you're going to repeat round 2 and 3 until you have a total of 8 rounds. And when you've done that, I'm going to meet back up with you here. We're going to talk about creating the closure to our wristlet. Okay, so I ended up doing 9 rounds in total. So my bag looks something like this. Just love that texture. And you can faintly see that our seam is right here and it stayed in the same spot, which was exactly what I wanted to do. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to create our closure or a flap here. So we're gonna chain 1, which I already have, and we're gonna continue doing the same stitch. So I'm gonna go right back into that very first stitch next to it, and I'm gonna single crochet. And now I'm going to proceed to do a total of, including the single crochet, 24 stitches across this side. So I'll just stop just short of that bend there, okay? So the first one was a single crochet, but we're still going to continue placing a linked single crochet. So go through that leg first and then into the next stitch. You know the drill. So you're going to end up having 24 stitches at the end of, you can call this row 1 of your flap, or you can call it row 10 if you're just thinking of it as continuous movement. So I am going to go ahead and finish my first row here, and I'll meet up with you once I've finished my 24 stitches. Okay, so I have completed 24 stitches. So I just stopped just short of that crease there. So now currently this side is higher than this side. So what we're going to do now is we are going to turn our work, but first we're going to chain 1. So we're no longer working in rounds, we're going to work in rows. So we turn our work, and then what we're going to do is simply repeat what we've done in the previous row. So you're just going to insert your hook into the very first stitch, and you're going to single crochet. And you know the drill. Once you single crochet, you can then begin your linked single crochet. And that's pretty much it. So you're going to repeat row 1 until you have a total of 6 rows. So you're going to go down to the end, chain 1, turn, and come back. So you're going to do, so we've already got row 1, this is row 2, you're going to do it for 4 more rows. And what we're aiming for here is to create the flap that's going to come over. And that's it, that's all. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you at the end of row number 6. Okay, so I have finished my 6 rows, and I have something that looks like this. So I've snipped off my yarn. And so this fits my phone perfectly. I've already done the little test there. And the flap comes over just nicely. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave in this end, and then the next step is going to be to sew the button on. But before we do that, I'm just going to take you through, we're going to just create a little loop that we can pull over our button. So you notice I didn't make a buttonhole per se for this project. So I'm just going to get my home deck yarn back here. I'm only going to use the yellow. And I'm just going to place a slip knot back on my hook. And I'm just going to chain up 10. And the 10 is just enough that it's going to give a little bit of stretch that can go over the button, but not too loose. So I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So you've just got something that looks like that. Got a bit of a tail here. And now I'm just going to cut off a bit of a tail at the end there. Okay, and then pull that through, and you've got this nice little stretchy loop here. So what I'm going to get you guys to do, I'm going to come back to this in a moment. I'm going to weave in my end, and then I'm going to take my thread and needle, and I'm going to sew my button on, okay? And I think you guys have seen me sew on buttons before, so I'm not going to break it down again, but you're just going to use kind of a back and forth in and out weaving, and you can go across diagonally, or you can go in a square shape, or maybe your button only has 2 holes. So whatever is the design of yours, you're just going to go with the flow. I am going to sew mine in around the 3rd row. So this was the 1st row after our spine here, the 2nd and 3rd. So I'm going to place my button right about there. So if I were to close my flap, that's perfect, because then my loop, I can pull it down and over there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish these little aspects, and then I'm going to come back and just quickly guide you through your little loop here that we created. Okay, so I've got my button sewn on, and I've sewn in my ends, and now I just want to bring back my little 10 chains here. So what you want to do is you just relatively want to see where the button falls, and hopefully it's somewhere in the middle. And I'm actually going to loop this into my yarn needle, first side, and I'm going to do the second side as well. So both ends are going to be looped through here. So actually I should take that out and do it again. So both of these strands are going to go through. There we go, just like that. And then you want to pull that. So there you can see your loop. Okay, and then you're going to just find somewhere in the center where it's centered with your button. And then you just want to insert your yarn needle from the top. As long as you catch one of those stitches there, you want all of the loops there. And you're just going to pull it down through. Going to hold the loop, and your yarn needle is just going to help through the others. Oops, there we go, just like that. So you want the loop itself to look like it's coming out from the top. And at this point, you want to then just go ahead and sew or weave this end in like you would weaving your regular ends. So you're just going to try and hide it in there. So just going to pull that through. It's a little bit thicker here, so oops. There we go. So what I might do is I might just separate these guys now. So that way I can tie a little bit of a knot. So I'm going to just go back out here. I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to bring them back over. There we go. So now there's a little bit of a loop in between them, and then I'm going to tie a knot. And that just helps to make sure that they stay nice and secure in their place. I always like to do several knots. Okay, and then you're just going to weave in those like regular ends. So, and I'll do that off camera. So right now you've got this little loop. Okay, so then you're going to bring your loop over. Just like that. And you've got your wristlets closed. Now, the final touch is to add our actual little wrist attachment. So you can see this one has the claw opening there. And you just find any which side you like. I'm just going to pick this side here. And you're just going to find a stitch there, right? Okay, so you've got your hook here, see, just like that. And you're going to just make sure that it sits nicely on the side. So I'm going to go into this stitch here. So I'm just going to open and I'm just going to hook through. Whoops, I want to make sure I catch all of the loops. Need one more there. There we go. And there you are, okay? And there is your wristlet. Now it is complete. So this is perfect for a cell phone size, which is exactly the size I made it for. You can put a cell phone, a couple of cards, debit card, credit card, and you are good to go. And I just love how the strap goes really well with the button, ties it all in. And there you have it. Short and sweet. I hope that you found it fairly easy, and I hope that you enjoyed continuing to discover the linked single crochet stitch. So if you have any questions, as always, please do leave them for me in the comment box down below, or email me directly at info@crochetcrafty.com, and I'm always very happy to answer any questions that you may have. And make sure to come say hi to me. I'm on the socials on Instagram and Facebook at The Stitch Sessions. And I always appreciate you guys coming along and continuing to support this channel, support my crochet journey. Thank you so much to those who have subscribed. And if you haven't and like what you see so far, make sure to press that subscribe button. And that way you'll stay up to date every time I upload a brand new video, which is every Wednesday morning. And if you are interested in supporting this channel in any other way, there is a fantastic little button down below called the thanks button. And it's just a way you can give a small donation if you would like to just continue to support the channel and let me know that you like what you are seeing. And of course, if you like this project and you'd like to see more, make sure to give me a thumbs up, and I will try to create more projects like this. Oh, and by the way, if you guys have requests or suggestions on projects, please do leave them for me in the comment box or email me. And don't fret if you don't see them right away. I am getting to them eventually. It just takes me a little while because I'm doing it all here, filming and editing. But I love it when you guys send me requests because it just helps to keep my creative juices flowing. So there you have it. I hope you guys enjoy your day. And as always, take very good care of yourselves. And I will see you guys in next week's session. Bye-bye.